Hello, me mateys. Vuvi Yaloovie here, and welcome to Pokemon Champions, where I'm going to be taking on the ranked doubles ladder and going to be trying to make my favorite Pokemon Alchemy work. But of course, we've got every other Pokemon to consider. We like Mega Audino, so that's pretty much a mainstay in our team now, and we're going to be making it work. So, as I alluded to in my last video with Volcarona, Snorlax, and strategic team building with Mega Audino, I alluded to that we couldn't really do anything to prevent Fake Out. Now, this video will try and cover that base. So, how are we going to fit another Pokemon on this team if I already like it? Well, me mateys, remember how I said we're kind of just using our favorites? We're going to absolutely throw away the idea of redirection so I can show you the power of maybe having something to prevent damage in the long run might be a good idea, right? Because redirection is really powerful starting in the higher tier ranks. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to introduce Farigiraf into the team. Now I'm going to put in Farigiraf for Volcarona, and you're going to absolutely, many experienced players will question me, why in the world would I get rid of my redirection option if I want to set up Trick Room? Now, this video will hopefully try and prevent as much Fake Out as possible. Now, how can I prevent Fake Out with Farigiraf? Well, it's very simple. If I go into its train Pokemon option here, and if I go to its ability, its current ability is Cudchew, and if I remember correctly, if it eats a berry, it'll basically eat it again. Okay, so that's Cudchew, right? But it also gets access to a signature ability. Well, actually, it's just the ability that's only exists on the Pokemon itself, which is Armor Tail. Now, Armor Tail means that opponents are unable to use priority moves against the Pokemon or its allies. Now, what did we see about Fake Out again? Fake Out makes the Pokemon flinch on, and it's only be able to use on the first turn, right? And it's a +3 priority move. So that means opponents will be unable to use Fake Out against either the Audino or either the Farigiraf or whoever the partner for Farigiraf is at that given time. Now, the good thing about Farigiraf is it also gets access to Trick Room. Now, here's the interesting thing what I'm going to do for this video. Because Farigiraf actually gets Trick Room as well as a method of like dealing damage, it's a really hard hitter, and many would actually argue that this is just a straight upgrade from most Trick Room setters, because it can prevent its own Armor Tail, like it can prevent Fake Outs from coming onto it. It just can't prevent like Taunt or being KO'd. However, look at its HP, 227 HP, 90 base, well 90 special defense, a really good defensive Pokemon. Now, I'm going to be training this one up, and I will keep what I'm going to do to it a secret. Alright, me mateys, I'm back. And so, because we're at Great Ball tier rank 2, we gotta also understand that maybe at this point that people will start to identify certain Pokemon on our team and play around that, right? Now, they're not just looking at the types anymore. They're gonna be looking at, let's just say, Farigiraf. Now, most people who play a little bit of VGC will understand that Farigiraf is a really core component of going for Trick Room. And so they'll look at this team and they'll think, oh, Farigiraf's on the team. Now we're going to be dealing with Trick Room. Do I have anything to deal with Trick Room? And usually that's going to be like some really strong Dark type move or some really strong Bug type move, or Taunt and potentially Fake Out as well. Fake Out only during when we have Galarian Wheezing in play, but otherwise we don't need to worry about Fake Out with Farigiraf. Now, we gotta keep all that in mind, right? It's kind of like building blocks of fundamentals of Pokemon, right? If I had to say what like it feels like, how the ranks are going. Beginner tier is like just like facing off against the CPU in other games, and then Pokeball tier is like Garchomp versus Garchomp, and then we add a partner each rank from there, right? So we see our team is definitely a Sun team with Torkoal. I don't see any Trick Room options, so we're going to be using, because there's no Fake Out options, Farigiraf's not really that interesting here. So I'm going to be using Audino, because we can really live those fire type attacks with Audino, unless if they decide to use like Eruption onto Audino, right? Then we're gonna have Vaporeon. Now we don't actually need to KO anything with Vaporeon in this match, because ideally what's gonna happen is they're gonna have Torkoal come out first and then maybe like a fire type. They do have Leafeon, so they might lead the Leafeon first, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have Snorlax, Vaporeon, and Alchemy. Now the reason why I'm starting off with Vaporeon when they clearly want to take out this Vaporeon is that we have Thick Fat, and Thick Fat on Snorlax will reduce any fire type incoming attacks. We don't need to worry about any fire types with Snorlax unless we get burned, as we found out last video. My goodness me, mateys. So let's see how we do. We can suspect that the Charizard Y is going to come out, the Torkoal is going to come out, and Rotom and Leafeon to deal with the Vaporeon slot, right? Because here we go, Torkoal and Leafeon, so they want to take down the Vaporeon as soon as possible, right? So here I am, really unfortunate looking Vaporeon in this situation, but as we remember, we're running Protect on Vaporeon, and what running Protect does in this situation, we can actually prevent ourselves from taking any damage here. However, they might have already seen this through, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to Mega Evolve the Audino here, and then we're going to go for a Trick Room, and then Protect on the Vaporeon. It might not be worth it because the Torkoal is actually the slowest thing on the field, but we want to prevent the Leafeon from going first, since that is the most threatening thing on the side of the field, right? Leafeon I don't think gets access to Fake Out, so we're not really worried about a flinch, and I don't think it knows Taunt as well, so we're not that worried about Taunt either. So we're going to see what they can do into stopping Trick Room here. So they're using Swords Dance, so they identify that we're going for a Trick Room lead, so they know we're being really passive in this turn. So look, we've now said that we're not really worried about the Torkoal now, because we're staying in with Audino and we're staying in with Vaporeon. Now that Leafeon's used Swords Dance, it really wants to use an attacking move into Vaporeon, right? It wants to OHKO Vaporeon. However, now that we're going first, we can actually attack the Leafeon before it gets to OHKO Vaporeon, which is really important going into the higher ranks. So now let's go for a Hyper Voice, because they have nothing that can resist it, and then an Ice Beam into the Leafeon slot. So ideally, Leafeon should switch out here, but we see an Eruption coming from the Torkoal, and that does a lot of damage into the Audino and Vaporeon slot because of the Sun, right? But we don't really need to worry about how much damage Audino is taking, because we see that the Torkoal's on the field. We should ideally see Audino fainting on the next turn, right? This is because this is like a more aggressive field, it seems like. They just want pure attacking power. Now, because Rotom's hit the field, I'm actually not that worried about what happens to Vaporeon here. So I'm going to actually switch in, I kind of want to switch in Alchemy just to deal some good damage onto the field, right? But I recognize that we might also want to preserve, well, not preserve, but like, I mean, we might also want to have Snorlax, but I don't really want to take that much damage on the Snorlax slot. So what I'm going to do, unfortunately, maybe this is not the best play, but I'm going to try for a Life Dew, right? And then I'm just going to actually protect the... Actually, no, I'm gonna Scald the Torkoal. Heat Wave comes out. It's gonna KO the Audino. Thank you, Audino. We may need you in the future, but I'm a bit of a interesting player. I just do whatever I feel like. Oh dear. So here comes a Thunderbolt, no doubt, from the... Oh, Eerie Impulse. Okay. Eerie Impulse is really good at shutting down special attackers, since it reduces the special attack by 2 stages, which is essentially half, right? So now we can introduce our Snorlax to the field. Now, Snorlax is going to be a very tough opponent to crack for our team, their opposing team, right? Because now that Torkoal's at such low HP, a Heat Wave's not going to do that much. A Eruption's not going to do any damage, and their only option is to use Heat Wave under the sun. Now, we still have to be careful of burn chance, right? But I'm not too particularly worried. So now that Vaporeon's taken a bit of a hit to its special attack stat, I'm going to send in the Alchemy slot. Send in the Alchemy. You know, it's a nice time to switch out the Vaporeon. I think it's a nice time anyway. So we're probably seeing that they're going to introduce Charizard to the field, right? Now, did I read the Protect? I can't remember what I picked. Yes, I did read into the Protect. So, more than likely that Torkoal on low HP is going to Protect to preserve that option to see what we do in sort of like the lower ranks, I guess you could say. Now, because they've used Volt Switch, that tells me they're going to actually introduce Charizard onto the field. What's going to happen next is that... Oh no, never mind. I was going to say that Charizard would have been a great option here. So because that's Harsh Sunlight only has one more turn, right? Introducing Charizard onto the field is a really good option because they can actually reset Sun if they want to lose the Torkoal slot. However, we're still in Great Ball tier rank, so we're going to see a lot of very interesting strategies here. So what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to use Rock Slide. I don't really mind what's happening. The Alchemy slot's very... You know, it's okay. No matter what I choose, it kind of doesn't matter. I do want to use Recover since they just use Protect and are no doubt attacking with Heat Wave again. So let's use Recover on Alchemy. We should see a fair bit of damage from Heat Wave. So we're going to recover all that damage for next turn when Trick Room comes out. Rock Slide will unfortunately miss the Volcarona, which is so important for them. So that really gives them a really good out into trying to finish off the match. What they need to do to succeed here is to burn these Snorlax so that the Volcarona just doesn't go down to like a double edge, right? Now that they're going to be faster on the Volcarona slot, because they're no doubt... Yep, there's a Fiery Dance onto Snorlax, so they're going to be faster this turn because Trick Room has faded. Now, what we're going to probably see... Okay, yeah, there's Rotom again. Now, it's just a matter of how well we can clutch out this match. So, Rotom at 3% HP, we don't really need to worry about it with Snorlax, who's on such low HP that we might get KO'd this turn. Now, fortunately, we still do have Vaporeon on the field, who's still pretty good HP. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to threaten a double edge onto the Volcarona and then a pure and simple Dazzling Gleam. That recover from before was really important, so in case if they actually want to double up onto the Alchemy slot, they're going to get punished really badly by getting a double edge to the face from Snorlax. Now, Hydro Pump, being an inaccurate move, is going to miss the Snorlax. Very unfortunate for them, because Snorlax is a very oppressive threat to their team. However, I think they might have not considered that we still have Vaporeon in the back, so they didn't really conserve their Rotom very well. And this is how Snorlax and Alchemy take down the team today. Very good first match, me mateys. Oh, okay, so this is more appropriate for a meta team. We've got our Chalodon, Rainsetter with Politoed, Corviknight to fend off against some weird shenanigans, right? Dragonite for Hurricane, and Basculegion for Swift Swim support. So this is a very tough team to go up against. It's very stable, this team, looks like. They understand their core, and they understand most likely that we're going to have Farigiraf, Trick Room. Now, this might be a bit of a mistake on my part because I'm running Farigiraf instead of Volcarona. And because of that, because our reliance on Trick Room is probably going to be our undoing, we might see that we might lose on turn 1 depending on the circumstance. So they know that Vaporeon's also going to come in. However, what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if they actually want to lead in the Corviknight. So I'm going to do something very cheeky here, and you're going to see what it is very soon. I'm going to have Meowscarada in as well, and unfortunately, I don't think I'll need the Snorlax because I think Archaludon is going to come out, and if Basculegion's coming, we're not going to have very much fun against it. So I'm going to try this out. Now Vaporeon's a little bit unfortunate too because it is a water type and it doesn't do that much damage into other water types. However, it can still win those traits just by going for those rain boosted skulls, right? I didn't actually get to see the rank of my opponent, but they've got something really powerful here, and there it is. Rain Call with Archaludon. Now you're probably thinking, oh well, we've got Audino and Farigiraf. Both of these Pokemon can't really deal with Archaludon. Now that is a little bit of a problem in retrospect, and we're probably just going to see a very interesting battle here on how we can manage to do. Retrospectively, I can understand that Brick Break from Snorlax would have been better options here, but this is a case where maybe the Pokemon that we've brought isn't exactly the best choice for this situation. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to use Trick Room on the Audino first. Then I'm gonna do something interesting. I'm gonna main look the Archaludon. So Electric Shot will raise their special attack by 1 stage. So the idea behind main look is that we can actually figure out to make that Archaludon stay on the field. Now, thinking about it, it's not actually the best idea because we actually wanted to main look the Politoed. I kind of just fumbled there, but that's okay, that's okay. We're still trying to figure out what the Farigiraf's doing. So, now that we've conveyed to our opponent that Farigiraf is the one that's probably going down next turn. With a really weird situation here, but this is kind of the place where you just look at your Pokemon and say, okay, I've used main look on my opponents, right? What did we want to accomplish with main look? Well, we wanted to make the Archaludon stay because we've got a really cool take on the Meowscarada being Low Kick. Now, Low Kick does more damage the more heavy your opponent is, and Archaludon's pretty heavy, not the heaviest of Pokemon, but it can work, right? So we're going to use not Foul Play, we're going to use Twin Beam into the Politoed slot because that's the best application of it. And so looking at Farigiraf's moveset, we'd probably think, okay, we want main look right to prevent them from switching out. But the problem is, now that main look is in play, they're going to feint the Farigiraf here, right? And Farigiraf will go down, which means that main look is no longer in play. So it's kind of like that thing, okay, what could we have done to make main look better? You know what I mean? So now we want to start understanding that maybe Protect would have been better in that situation, right? Because if we had Protect, we could show the Meowscarada right, and Farigiraf would still be in play this turn. And because the Archaludon's only getting stronger at this point, right, because of Electro Shot, we're running out of time to do offensive pressure into their Rain Core. So this is how you can start to get an idea of like what you can do to team build your Pokemon. So I'm going to go for a Low Kick here, and then I'm actually just going to Ice Beam the Archaludon, because we're actually still faster than it. And though this might not actually KO the Archaludon, it gives me a good idea into what I'm going up against in the higher ranks. So although we might not win this match, we can definitely see a very good sort of kind of strategical thinking on how we should approach the higher ranks, right? So Ice Beam connects, gonna activate Stamina unfortunately because I thought it was gonna be sturdy for whatever reason. And Archaludon actually being slower than the Meowscarada, which is unfortunate, but I have a feeling they're going to take out the Vaporeon here. Let's see if they decide to do that. No, they keep on going for the Meowscarada. So what they did there, they thought, okay, well, if Meowscarada's switching in when the Audino switches out, that means we have some offensive potential with Meowscarada, right? So they did a really good job there, knowing what we were trying to go for there. They had an understanding of offensive threat and offensive pressure. So what's going to happen now is that Electro Shot is too powerful for my team, and then we'll likely, go down to Electric Shock, which is not too bad, which is what I kind of expected going into this match. I wanted to show you guys the sort of thinking that you got to do when going into your matches, especially when you're going into the higher ranked lobbies. Why are your moves on the Pokemon as they are? Because are they doing something specific? Can they do their job correctly? And getting that experience firsthand is really what you would like to see first, right? You need that on battlefield experience so that you can know what you are dealing with in the future. So we're no doubt going to take an L here, but I'm going to play to my outs. I'm going to use Mega Audino to tank a +3 Electro Shot, no doubt, from the Archaludon, right? So we know that we're we're faster than Archaludon, and Archaludon actually goes down. So what happens now is probably we're going to see Bascu Legion, right? And Bascu Legion will be very problematic when it starts using Last Respects. Now, Last Respects is a move that increases in damage the more Pokemon that have fainted. But because we've kind of just stalled out their reign, we're going to see that probably the third Pokemon, Corviknight, will come in. Now, Corviknight is a really big problem for this team too, because it has steel moves that are really super effective against Audino. However, Corviknight is more of a steel type version of Audino. It has better attack stats than Audino, but it doesn't prefer to well, it can use them, but it likes to use Iron Defense Body Press, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to show them that we can just recover all day, all night, and then we're going to go for a Calm Mind on the Vaporeon, since we're not really threatened by Corviknight at all, right? So Life Dew won't heal the Vaporeon, unfortunately, so we're just going to recover any damage to prepare for how much damage does Iron Head do to the Audino slot. Because we've removed their most threatening piece of their board right now, we actually have a semi-decent chance of taking this through. Now, as we can see, Audino takes just above half HP. So what's going to happen, because they understand that Trick Room's going down this turn, they use Icy Wind so that we're guaranteed to move slower next turn. However, what they might not know is that we're not running any speed on our Pokemon, so we're actually pretty safe to go for another Trick Room, because if they want to preserve the Rain, they're going to switch out the Politoed and then continue to Iron Head the Audino. Now what I'm aiming for here is a Vaporeon finish where I can ideally use Scald in the rain on the Bascu Legion. So I'm going to go for another Calm Mind and play to my outs for a potential 3v1 with Vaporeon. Oh, they do have Helping Hand on the Corviknight, so they do... Oh! Never mind, they probably targeted the wrong Pokemon there, really unfortunately. But if they targeted the Audino, that Iron Head would have actually KO'd the Audino, preventing me from using Trick Room and preventing me from having more of a better chance of winning this interaction. Because they used Icy Wind on us, now they're actually going to be slower than our Pokemon in Trick Room. So what's going to happen is I'm going to keep on using Life Dew. They have to break through the Audino first because otherwise Vaporeon's just going to keep on getting stronger and stronger. We're going to be at +3 now. It's going to be really difficult for them to try and break through because Vaporeon is now my win condition. We need to start understanding a little bit of how we can win the turns and how we can win out the game from here. If we wanted to climb into Ultra Ball rank, having a vague idea of how this is going to play out is almost essential if you want to break through Ultra Ball. Now, I'm utilizing this sort of strategy because we need to, because we're almost in Ultra Ball ourselves, we need to start implementing these if we want to show our face into Ultra Ball in the first place. Because, well, yeah, you know, we're also just kind of having fun. So now that we're pretty much strong enough, we kind of just see that we can just aim for a Scald here on the Corviknight. Helping Hand will do a lot of damage too, so we're going to use another Life Dew. We can probably just survive 2 Helping Hand boosters if we're not using Life Dew, but we're going to see a very devastating Scald onto the Corviknight. Yep. So if you were in my opponent's situation, I would probably switch into Basculegion or try and get some more offensive pressure onto the Vaporeon slot, right? You need a really strong, forfeit, So you need a really strong move, physical move ideally, to break through the Vaporeon. And what my opponent there did, they kind of underestimated the power of Trick Room, so they saw that Trick Room was up, but they still managed to get a few Pokemon out from my team, right? They were going in really well, thinking that we could go with, they knocked out 2 Pokemon, they were on a little bit of a high, and they wanted to keep the ball rolling by keeping on attacking our Pokemon. But we sent out Audino. Audino, who still has access to Trick Room, went pretty much undeterred from going with Trick Room. And so that kind of just led to a small snowball where Vaporeon wasn't really threatened by anything on their field and could get those Calm Minds and then proceed to sweep with Scald. My opponent recognized that and they forfeited. Now that we're in Ultra Ball rank, me mateys, maybe I can show off a fake out, right? So what I'm gonna go skip this dialogue and then we'll go to our next match in Ultra Ball. Okay, we're up against Chunky. So from our Ultra Ball opponents, we can probably start to see more coherent strategies, but they're going to be acting as if they're just seeing what sticks. And this is a very dangerous call for us. We have Tyranitar and Excadrill. Excadrill and Tyranitar are very 2 good Pokemon next to each other. We see Incineroar and we see the Sinistcha, who can provide additional support, and then we have Fake Out support from the Sneasler. So what's probably going to happen is they see that we have Farigiraf, right? We're probably no doubt going to go for Trick Room, so they're going to send out Primarina first. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to call out their Primarina here and see if they want to lead with it, right? Then I'm going to have Meowscarada next to it so we can hopefully go for an Oko onto it. And then we're going to go Audino, and then I suppose... very tempting to use Alchemy here for the Tyranitar, but Snorlax, all of these Pokemon can do the same job, really. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, what I don't know is going to hurt me in the long run, but I don't mind, so it's going to be Vaporeon. Yeah, that sounds about right. Here we go. Alright, so we can either expect to see Tyranitar and Excadrill if they're just practicing their Sand Core, or if they want to prevent Trick Room, we're going to see Primarina and probably Sneasler. So it is practicing for Sand Core, so I kind of led a little bit to predict, like I tried to go very hard on the prediction on this, on the lead slot here, but that's okay. So what we're going to see here is we're definitely going to see a very strong dark move from the Tyranitar into the Farigiraf, because we're kind of, yeah, because they don't want to have Trick Room, but we don't actually have Trick Room. So, and then Excadrill's probably just going to use a move into the Meowscarada slot, probably Iron Head, right? Or they're going to use, whatchamacallit, Mega Excadrill, right? But we're going to see what happens. So we're going to low kick the Tyranitar because we're not worried about terrestrialization in this game. Usually they'd like to go Terra Flying, but like, we don't need to worry about that. Now, Mega Tyranitar, oh yes, me mateys. So they're really going at it for probably a Rock Slide or a Dark move into the Farigiraf. But we actually have Protect. We just kind of bluffed our way into making them think we have Trick Room on this team. Or at least on the Farigiraf. So here's the low kick. It's going to absolutely do massive damage to the Mega Tyranitar, and there it goes. Their Mega option is now down. Now the reason why that kind of just worked out is because they're practicing their Sand Core. They want to deal with whatever's in front of them at the moment, right? So now that they've got Sneasler, they're really worried about Meowscarada because it's going to do a lot of damage. But they're also pretty threatened by the Farigiraf. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Twin Beam on the Sneasler because it is a poison and fighting type, really weak to psychic moves. And then Sneasler's probably going to try and KO the Meowscarada, or if it has a Night Slash, it will go for the Farigiraf. So what I'm going to do, I don't really mind what happens this turn. I'm going to use a Flower Trick into the Excadrill. This is more so to see what they actually do with the Sneasler. I'm kind of curious to see what they want to do. High horsepower into the Farigiraf, so no doubt they want to KO the Farigiraf first. Here's the Dire Claw, there goes Meowscarada, that's okay. I just wanted a Sneasler down next turn because I have Vaporeon and a Snorlax, who's not Snorlax, but anyway, Audino, who's really weak to Sneasler. So that's really good. We got rid of their Sneasler, and now we can actually think about setting up Trick Room now. So I'll go in for Audino. And who's next? Sinister? Yeah, okay, so Sinister comes out, and we're no doubt going to see the Farigiraf faint this turn. So what I can actually go for is I can go for a Mean Look. Nah, I don't want to go for Mean Look. There's only 2 Pokemon on the field. There's no need to Mean Look. We can just go for a Protect and then a Trick Room, right? Because in Ultra Rank, people know what strategies to go with, but it's kind of just like seeing what works because we're still trying to understand the metagame of Pokemon champions, right? We're still trying to understand what works and what doesn't because we're all new players here, right? We're all trying to understand how the game works and how can we make the best of our situation. So they went for Earthquake, no doubt being the safest option into dealing damage against the Audino slot. And here comes a Marchagacha from the Sinister, no doubt wanting to KO the Farigiraf if something happened, or we avoid the attack with Audino. That's so good, me mateys. And so now that we have Trick Room up, it's likely that Farigiraf might go down this turn, but we're still going to aim a Twin Beam into the Sinister. Now, why don't we go for a Foul Play? Well, Foul Play uses the opposing Pokemon's attack stat. Even though it is a Dark type move, Sinister doesn't really want to run an attack, so that means the Foul Play might not be as effective. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to heal up the Audino with Life Dew and then go for a Twin Beam onto the Sinister slot. Ooh, a lot of talking. I'm going to take a drink. Okay. Alright, so in this situation, my opponent has decided to go for a Protect. Now, looking at my two Pokemon, normal Psychic and normal potential Fairy, right, because of Mega Audino. It's actually more beneficial if Excadrill gets off an attack in this turn, but they were no doubt protecting to stall out the Trick Room, right? But they have their own Trick Room, so they just mitigate our Trick Room, so now that they can go first, right? That's not too bad. That's really good play on their part. We do have our outs though. So what they're going to probably do now is that they realize that we can't really do that much damage into the Excadrill slot here. So what's going to happen? They're probably going to Swords Dance on the Excadrill, and no doubt they might try and aim for a Earthquake finish. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to Foul Play the Excadrill, knowing that they might go for a Foul Play. Foul Play stacks in damage the more they boost their attack, right? So, and then, you know, I just want Audino to have as much HP in preparation to deal with the damage that's coming from Excadrill. We're not too worried about Sinister. It's not going to do that much damage into us. Okay, so they go for Earthquake, which is not too bad, right? We just survived on the Farigiraf. Let's see how we go here. March-Gacha does hit, so Farigiraf will be going down. So it's kind of good that they went for that play, so now that we can get in Vaporeon without really worrying about taking damage from switching in, which is what most people, or very famously Aaron Zane refers to as a free switch in. I'm not going to take it from him though. It really is lovely to hear him say free switch in into X Pokemon. So we go into Vaporeon. Now we have a little bit of a predicament here, right? We are very liable to Earthquakes coming from the Excadrill, and we're also going to take super effective damage from the March-Gacha from Sinister. So the way out from this is to probably go for like a, I want to say an Ice Beam. Two things could happen. They could probably try and use Trick Room, right? But if they do want to use Trick Room to counteract my Trick Room, then that's a really good play on them, but I'm going to remove their Trick Room option first because I want to control the speed for this last bout here. Now, if they use Iron Head into the Audino slot predicting a Mega, that's a really good play on their part, and that would really win them the match just there and then. So Mega Audino has the defenses to survive. Now we're going to see if they use March-Gacha or Energy Ball even. March-Gacha, so they don't want to worry about Trick Room. So we will get Trick Room off unless... we get burned on the Vaporeon, so they win on that turn just there. That is very unfortunate, me mateys. So what will happen is we'll feint to burn this turn, and we'll get off a Trick Room, which will allow the Audino to be faster, but we have nothing to attack the Excadrill with for a chance to OHKO. Very unfortunate, me mateys, but that is the nature of how some of these games are going to go. Oh, the healer activates! Oh my goodness, healer activates. So we actually do have a chance this turn, me mateys. So we're going to go for a Scald. We're going to go for a Hyper Voice because Hyper Voice is stronger. And we know that Earthquake will deal more than half damage, so there's no point in trying to go for a Life Dew. Going to go for a Hyper Voice. Scald. If this KOs, we win because of Audino's ability. It's so nice to have Audino on the field, me mateys. Oh my goodness. Scald. Will it KO? Super effective damage onto the Excadrill, and we win because of Healer activating on the Vaporeon. How nice of Audino to save us from that battle there, B-Baties. Very good, very good. And I think on that high note, because I've been talking a lot in this video, I'm gonna wrap it up there because maybe some of the stuff I've been talking about might not click just at the moment, or even be the ideal way to explain things, right? However, from my perspective, it's a really good method of thinking, especially when you want to play with your favorite Pokemon, right? Because because we can see, because we have our experience on our favorite Pokemon, we know what's going to generally work on the team. When we get to Master Ball rank, or if we ever do pass Ultra Ball rank, it's just a matter of guessing what they're going to do into our team, because our team is a very unknown type of team to go up against, right? We've got Mega Audino, we've got Farigiraf, we've got Snorlax. Okay, so the thing is, we might be able to see that a Trick Room would go off, right? But then, what's really going to happen from there, right? That's what kind of Master Ball is about, because Master Ball rank assumes that everyone has the same level of skill, and it's kind of like the reward for passing the skill cliff of Ultra Ball rank, in my opinion. So, very fun few games we had here, me mateys. We're at the hour mark, so thank you so much for watching through this video if you decided to do so, or if you just skipped to this part. It's a video, you choose to watch it how you want, right? Oh, I want to tell you to do, watch the whole video. Yeah, okay, watch the whole video, me mazes. You're gonna watch the whole video, and remember why I think Mega Audino and Alchemy are really good Pokemon. Alright. So, just as a, I guess a reminder, sort of, like, always remember what your Pokemon are capable of. We saw in the, in that match against the Politoed and Archaludon, we saw that when we tried to mean look the Archaludon to get a low kick off into it, right? We didn't have any method of mitigating damage so that we could get in the Meowscarada when our Pokemon faints, or when we switch it in, right? And we didn't have any methods of protecting our Farigiraf, and we couldn't really utilize Mean Look. Now that we have Protect, we can utilize Mean Look a little bit better. Even though it might not be the play, we're still going to be trying to go for it, right? Now, it's definitely not optimal. I will tell you now, this is definitely not an optimal way of playing. It's not. If you're not sure what this team is doing, it's not going to net you any... it's not going to rocket you up to success, right? I've built this team because I have a vague well, I have a pretty decent understanding of what's going to be happening to my team at a general level. I'm not quite at the tier where I can, like, start bluffing to my opponents with just Mega Audino or just Snorlax, right? Because Master Ball rank is kind of like, okay, but what can you do to opponents who realistically know what you're going to do, right? And sometimes you might just come across teams that will just be practicing their scripts, right? So what I mean by scripts are like people who know the general strategy of their team, and they want to follow the script of how to play this team, right? So let's just say I have Farigiraf and Volcarona, right? Farigiraf and Volcarona are probably very good Pokemon next to each other, and when I'm going to be sending out these two Pokemon so I can guarantee a Trick Room, because we have Armor Tail, we can prevent Fake Out, and we have redirection for like any weird stuff like Taunt or doubling up into the Farigiraf. So that's kind of like the idea of following a script. We don't have to worry about that now because we're in Ultra Ball rank. This is kind of the rank where everyone's kind of throwing a really good strategy together, but they're doing it in a way that they're just throwing it onto the wall and see what sticks. It can work out for them, or it might not work out for them, right? And we got to be careful of the people who know what does stick, right? Because they would have been ideally playing Pokemon for a pretty good while by now, and they will be able to understand what our team might be going for. Even though we kind of have a few unknown factors on this team, right? Like, why is Meowscarada on a Trick Room team? It all falls into the thinking of, what are we doing with our Pokemon, me mateys? So, that will be it for this video, me mateys. Thank you so much for sticking through with me, and maybe the concepts haven't, like, quite stuck in just yet, or, like, maybe maybe because we're all still new to Pokemon, we're not quite understanding why things are working, but hopefully the way I've been commentating and the way that I've been playing might help understand, maybe, just try and get a better understanding of the Pokemon that we're using. Meta or not, doesn't really matter as long as you enjoy which Pokemon you're using and that you have confidence in using these Pokemon. So if you're a fan of Chandelure, if you're a fan of Castform, if you're a fan of Superior, use those Pokemon by all means. I'm just showing you my way of thinking. And that will be it for this video, me mateys. Oh my goodness, my voice is going. I'm Vuvi Yaloovie. I will see you in the next video. Ta and ta-ta.